Welcome dear friends. We tend to believe that the lives of the rich and famous are perfect and easily forget that they are human beings who face as many difficulties as us, even many more. During the 90s, they surprised the world with a fresh and new style, and their music was danced and sung on 5 continents, but not everything was rosy. This is the story of Ace of Base and Linn Berggren. Malin Sofia Katarina Berggren was born in Gothenburg, Sweden, on October 31, 1970. Malin, also known as Linn, is the second daughter of the marriage formed by Jordan Berggren, a radiologist, and Brigitta Berggren, a university professor. Together with her older brother Jonas and younger sister Jenny, they would later form one of the most remembered bands of the 90s and probably the third most famous musical group in Sweden, just behind ABBA and Roxette. Their great musical legacy is not a gift from Sweden. The parents of Linn were devout Christians, and in this faith, they raised their children, all of them being very religious throughout their lives. Moreover, music was always linked to their family, and her father played instruments like the flute and the guitar, instilling this passion in Linn and her brothers since they were very young. The Berggren children had a very happy childhood, playing outside their home all day and coming back almost at night, building wooden forts to play. However, Linn was different from her siblings and enjoyed solitude since childhood. According to her own words, while I was born, they were building a new hut on a tree. I waited for them to finish it and then took over it and went there to dream that I was a princess without anyone bothering me. I am the type of person who likes to sit on a chair, observe the world around me, and then retire and develop my thoughts. My behavior often gives the impression that I am shy, annoying, even arrogant, but I am not at all like that. I love people, but I am not talkative. That is why it is often difficult for everyone to understand my true nature. Since she was very young, Linn showed inclination towards music, and, in fact, according to her mother, since Linn was 2 years old, she was already singing to her younger sister when she cried in her crib. Seeing Linn enjoy singing, her grandmother, who was a music teacher, began teaching her old songs, and Linn learned many of them very easily. At 4 years old, she already knew how to play several complete melodies on the piano and played the flute in Sunday school. When she was 10 years old, Linn and Jenny began taking violin and singing lessons, and due to their great talent, they soon became part of the choir of the Church of Gothenburg, where they had their first experiences in front of the public. On the other hand, Jonas, the older brother, was born with a cleft palate and had to undergo several surgeries to correct it. During his adolescence, he spent every dollar that fell into his pocket on something related to music, and his childhood dream was to have a band. He started playing in a group called Jack Conrad, and then began a musical project called Techno, playing some new romantic and punk. However, when they needed good voices, Jonas recommended his sisters, Linn and Jenny. As a curious fact, they did not take the name Techno from a scene in the movie Terminator 1, where the future robot chases Sarah Connor in a disco with that name. At the beginning, both girls had dark hair, but soon after, imitating the style of the ABBA group, Linn defined herself as the blonde of the group, with her techno and fresh music and the beautiful voices of Linn and Jenny catching attention. They started performing at various local festivals and events. In August of 1990, when they were about to perform at a major festival where the Rolling Stones were also playing, one of the band members suffered a panic attack and refused to go on stage just a few minutes before the concert started. Jonas looked for a last-minute replacement, and his friend, the musician Ever, agreed to play with them. From then on, he became the 4th member of the band, completing the final lineup of the future phenomenon called space. In fact, shortly after, they went to a party and saw someone who came up with the name of the band as a wordplay related to the aces in a deck of cards, like them, and the fact that they rehearsed and recorded in a basement. This way, the 6 means literally, ace of the basement. With great passion, they started rehearsing for long hours and preparing songs. When they had several tracks ready, they began touring Sweden and knocking on the doors of record companies, but they were always rejected. Some executives even told them that their lyrics were too obvious and simple and that people wouldn't like them. Linn was content with the local success they had, but her older brother wanted much more, and luckily for all of us, the young musicians didn't give up and tried their luck in the neighboring country of Denmark with a single called The Wheel of Fortune, which surprised many with its freshness and unusual mix of pop and reggae elements. Don't come to the Canary Islands, there's quality, and the song was released twice with little success. But on the third attempt, suddenly, the success exploded, and the song began to climb the Danish charts in February 1992. And they got their first gold record for the copies sold. It was the beginning of their great dream. Luck finally seemed to be on their side, and then another incredible event happened that would establish them. The band sent a tape with a song called Mr. to a famous Swedish producer named Dennis Pop. The producer always tested the demos in his car because he believed that a hit song had to sound great while people were driving. Although Dennis Pop didn't like the song, something incredible happened. The tape got stuck in his car stereo, and he couldn't remove it. For over a week, the only song he could hear while driving was Mr., and after a week of listening to it, his opinion changed, and he decided to produce the song with the group. Soon after, they released the song that would launch them to international fame. However, the producer decided to change the name and renamed it All That She Wants.
So if you are inside and the day is right, she's the hunter, you're the fox. She's gone tomorrow, boy, all that she wants is another baby.
In 1993, their first album titled Happy Nation was released initially in Europe, which positioned them as one of the breakthrough bands, and they started to be really recognized. But their success hadn't yet reached the US, and producers hesitated to sign them because of their innovative and different style. However, luck struck again when the famous American producer Clive Davis, responsible for the success of great stars like Whitney Houston, Barry Manilow, and Oversupply, was on vacation in Europe. When he tuned into the TV, he saw the group for the first time performing the song, All That She Wants. With a legendary sense for hits, he saw their potential and signed them. Clive promptly got in touch with the Swedish record label and invited the band to meet him in New York. Once in his office, Davis expressed his keen interest in releasing the band's album in the US, but he had several conditions, such as adding a few more songs, including at least one cover of another important artist, and to the group's displeasure, they agreed to his demands. After much deliberation, the band chose to cover the song, Don't Turn Around, written by Albert Hammond and originally performed by Tina Turner in 1986, as well as adding two of their own recently finished songs, Living in Danger.
I'm gonna be strong, I'm gonna define it. Don't turn around, 'cause you're gonna see my heart breaking. Don't turn around.
The US version of the album was released in November 1993 and was a complete success, propelling them to the final step on their path to worldwide recognition.
I saw the sign, and it opened up my eyes. I saw the sign.
As they obtained 8 platinum albums in less than a year after succeeding worldwide with their debut album, Linn. However, the lead singer experienced the dark side of success firsthand. On the night of April 27, 1994, the Linn's lead singer's sister, Jamie, was awoken by an intruder who had forced entry into her Swedish home and held a knife to her throat. The assailant was Manuela Berendt, a German woman obsessed with the group and soft beige, who was specifically searching for Linn that night. The group had to start traveling with bodyguards after this incident, and Linn's experience made her even more disillusioned with everything related to show business, leading her to hate success. Despite disagreements with the record label's demands, the band decided to release their second album, The Bridge, in an environment that was somewhat tense on October 27, 1995. The album was less successful than the previous one but included one of their most famous songs, Beautiful Life.
You're doing tomorrow's gonna go your way. It's a beautiful life. Oh, oh, it's a beautiful life.
In February 1996, the band performed at the Vina del Mar International Song Festival in Chile, where they faced technical issues and sound failures. Despite this, they did their best to satisfy the demanding audience. However, Linn was feeling depressed due to the emptiness she sometimes felt in her life, and the pressure of being the lead vocalist was affecting her more and more. Linn began missing some of the group's commitments and presented themselves as a trio, with the other members giving different excuses to explain their absence, such as Linn's fear of flying. When Linn started missing concerts in Sweden, where no air travel was necessary, her absence became increasingly difficult to explain. Some said she was overcoming a severe depression, and when she didn't give her best on stage, the band sounded quite bad. As a result, roles in the band began to change, and parts of Linn's vocals were given more and more to her sister Jenny, who also sang well and didn't sound too different from her sister. Linn had no problem with this, as she was eager not to be the center of attention and wanted to lead a quiet life in Sweden. However, she couldn't leave the band due to the clauses in the contracts that had already been signed and the pressure from family ties. Instead, she stayed further behind, doing backing vocals and playing keyboards. She often left the stage before her bandmates to avoid interviews and avoided being photographed when possible. Nonetheless, she continued to collaborate on recordings. At the beginning of 1998, the group began working on their third album, but they faced several difficulties. One of the most significant was that producer Clive Davis forced Linn to sing a song that she did not want to. The song, Every Time It Rains, had been recorded by Jenny, but Clive did not like it and insisted on removing that recording and redoing it with Linn's voice. She refused because she saw it as a disrespect to her sister, but she eventually had to give in due to the immense pressure from executives.
Paradise once again. Lucky love belongs to teenage heaven. I know.
According to Jonas, this was the last straw for Linn, who decided that she no longer wanted these kinds of things in her life. On June 15, 1998, the band's third album was released, with Jenny, Jonas, and Ulf featured prominently on the covers, while Linn always appeared in the background, almost always out of focus, as if she didn't want to be there, which was indeed the case. In the music videos released for television, Linn was rarely seen, and the three remaining members were the protagonists. The album had some success with songs such as Life is a Flower, Always Have, Always Will, Cruel Summer, and Cecilia, but they were few in comparison to their previous works. The record labels only cared about the million-dollar sales. They lost interest in those beige tones despite the band's great popularity, and the members decided to take a break and focus on other projects while also dedicating more time to their families. For Linn, this was a great relief, even though his appearances with the band were already almost non-existent, and he maintained a low profile in his personal life. Jonas married Norwegian stylist Vert Howland on July 12, 2000, whom he met during a cruise in Norway in the summer of 1996. Together, they have 4 children: Julia, born in 1999, Gabriel born in 2001, Amanda born in 2006, and Molly born in 2008. Jenny Berggren, on the other hand, married her lifelong boyfriend Jacob Petr, a Swedish pianist, on September 18, 2004. They have 2 children together and reside in Gothenburg. Heiberg dated Swedish model and actress Emma Roberts from 1994 to 2000. Until the summer of 2010, he lived in London and currently lives in Stockholm with his girlfriend Johanna Ibar and their 3 children, Viggo, Vincent, and Valentina. As for a paper, there is a curious fact that many do not know. During his youth, he belonged to a white supremacist group and was part of a neo-Nazi band whose lyrics were loaded with racial hatred. The singer has commented in several interviews that he regrets those years and soon realized that his thoughts were completely wrong and that he did not want to be part of that, so he reformed. In the case of Linn, she has insisted on keeping her love life a secret, even from the band's early days. Her first kiss was given by a classmate and she was 13 years old. The boy tried to give her a French kiss, and she ran away. When she was 18, she had a formal boyfriend, and in the late 90s, it became known that she had a romance with a business administration student named Frederick Johansson. However, even though they were seen together in public a few times, it was never known when they ended their relationship. In 2002, the band returned with their fourth album titled Este Capo, which sold very well in Japan and had moderate success in Europe with songs like Beautiful Morning and Despicable. However, the record label, Arista, refused to promote the album in America, and sales were not very good. In the promotional video clips for this work, Linn practically did not appear, and you could only see her for a few seconds in the background while the other three members were the protagonists. In 2005, after several years of not singing together, the group performed a series of successful concerts as guests at the Nights of the Proms Festival, which also featured stars like Donna Summer or Bajo. Despite the success in the presentations, there were only 3 members present, and Linn did not attend. In 2007, he declared to the media, "Now we are a trio. We will no longer be a quartet. Malin does not want to be in the band. She has other priorities in her life. She did not want to be in the group since 1996, and in these 11 years, she has been drifting away more and more. She will not be part of the tour or the next album." After this, Yen, Jonas, and Ulf began preparing the songs for their 5th album, but during the process, discussions arose, and Jenny felt that they were leaving her out of important decisions and not listening to her voice. For this reason, she decided to leave the group and forbade them from using the name of SOS Vis. To avoid copyright infringement, the band's name was changed. The project didn't succeed commercially, and although the new girl's vocals weren't bad, most fans declared that she was far from having the class, elegance, and simplicity of Linn and Jenny. Although the Berggren brothers' professional relationship has had complications, they have remained stable in the family environment and often get together. In fact, thanks to Jonas' social media posts, some small details about Linn's current life have been revealed. Thanks to her brother, it is known that Linn is now married civilly, no longer sports blonde hair, lives in Gothenburg, the city where she was born, and only sings on holidays within her intimate circle. She has managed the money she earned during her years of success very well, now owns her own business, and lives the simple and peaceful life she always desired. Her hobby is painting, so she invests in this activity. The story had a happy ending. Leave a comment with your opinion about this famous group and who you would like us to talk about in future deliveries. If you liked the content, remember to share it on your social media and with your friends. Please, subscribe to our channel and see you soon with another video. Bye.